Uniques often change builds in fundamental ways, or at the very least makes them unique. And that's always been the case for Diablo games and will certainly continue on to be the trend in Diablo 4 when the game launches in June. Now, generally speaking, uniques come in two different flavors. You have non-class specific uniques on the one side, which don't focus on any particular build or skill, but rather on, let's say, more general buffs, which can then be used on any build or any class of your choice. And then on the other side of the spectrum, the other side of the coin, you have uniques which target specific classes with specific skills in mind, and these augment those in very specific, unique ways. Now, I've already done a set of videos on these, but today is the rogue's turn. And we're starting right off with Ashara's Khanjar, which is a unique one-handed dagger. Now, this rolls with damage to close enemies, basic skill damage, damage to crowd-controlled enemies, damage for X seconds on elite kill, and also lucky hit chance. In other words, meaning that it increases the chance of a lucky hit depending on which skill you're using. And the aspect on here says that hits with this weapon increase your attack speed by 4 to 6% for 4 seconds, and this stacks up to 20 to 30%. Now, this very much mimics an effect that we have on the Barbarian called Frenzy, and this essentially gives dagger rogues a chance to experience this increased attack speed and being able to just, go ham with as many strikes as possible in the shortest amount of time as possible. This also increases your lucky hit chance as one of the statuses on here, the stats on here. And this then means that whichever skill that you're using here, like let's say for example flurry or something like that, then also will benefit from having a higher lucky hit chance. So in the case of dagger rogue, of course you're running 2 daggers, or let's say dual wield rogue, you're running 2 weapons. This can be one of your weapons, and then you can also stack some additional lucky hit effects on the other weapon or on the rest of your gear, and that's going to give you access to whenever this does actually proc a lucky hit. So I don't necessarily think that this is something that I'm super excited for. I have a different, melee rogue in mind, but I do like the fact that this gives a rogue an opportunity to just essentially turn into a fucking buzzsaw and just burn through enemies. So, I mean, if it drops, I'm not going to throw it in the trash. I'll give it a good old try. Then we have Condemnation. Fucking love that name. And this is a unique one-handed dagger as well, with damage to close enemies. What's going on over here? Attack speed for basic skills, critical strike chance against injured enemies, damage with dual wielded weapons, which this is one because you'll be carrying it in one hand and one in the other, and then core skill damage as well. Now, this says your core skills deal 20 to 40% increased damage when spending 3 combo points. Your skills using this weapon have a 30% chance to generate 3 combo points. Now, when it comes to the rogue, the class specific thing for the rogue is specializations, and one of those specializations is a combo points mechanic, which means that certain skills produce combo points and then certain skills burn combo points and does an additional effect. So very simply put, imagine it like this: you have a basic skill on the one side. Every time you stab an enemy with this basic skill, it gives you 1 combo point. Your combo points can stack all the way up to 5, so 5 stabs, now you're at 5 combo points. And then you have a skill that, let's say shadow step for example, and when you shadow step, it burns all 5 of your combo points and deals 10% additional damage for each combo point, so 50% additional damage. That is a very basic explanation of how it works, because some of the combo point stuff gets quite spicy and complicated, but that's basically it. If you are going to be playing a combo point rogue, this needs to most likely be an auto include, simply due to the fact that it actually doesn't just give you one effect here, it gives you additional damage on your core skills, which is phenomenal, and it gives you additional damage, it gives you a higher generation possibility on your skills that actually generate combo points. So instead of generating 1, you have this 30% chance of generating suddenly 4, so that's pretty good. Then we have Cowl of the Nameless, which is a unique helm. This has dexterity, cooldown reduction, crowd control, duration bonus, and maximum energy on it. Now, the aspect here says that you gain 15 to 25% increased lucky hit chance against crowd controlled enemies. Now, crowd control from the rogue side, you can blind enemies, you can stun them. There's a couple of different skills that essentially allow you to crowd control enemies. You can slow them. This means that you have a far higher chance of generating lucky hits on those targets that are crowd controlled. It also means that in a situation where you are playing with, for example, a buddy who is running a sorcerer who uses a lot of ice skills and therefore chills and freezes everything on the battlefield, then you don't necessarily have to worry so much about crowd controlling enemies, because you've got someone that's doing that for you, and you can just go apeshit on these enemies and kill them. So I like it to a degree. I'm not like 100% sold on lucky hit yet, although I'm sure I'm gonna fucking regret saying that. But this is certainly a way for you to really like ramp up some lucky hit chance, and I think there's gonna be a whole bunch of people that are gonna look and see just how far and how close they can get to like getting a lucky hit. Like 1 out of every 4 hits is a lucky hit, or fucking God forbid every hit is a lucky hit, which I don't know. I don't think that's possible, but you know, who knows. Then we have Eyes in the Dark, which is some unique pants over here. And this is your motion sorry, I just thought of a joke where I was like eyes in the dark with some unique pants, and I don't know, it didn't quite materialize in my head, and that's why I said motion. Fuck my life. But this, your potion also briefly grants movement speed. Maybe that's why I said motion. This also has dodge chance, shadow damage, damage to elites, and damage to trapped enemies. The aspect on here says that unless it hits a boss or a player, Death Trap, which is actually one of your ultimates, will continue to rearm itself until it kills an enemy. However, Death Trap's cooldown is increased by 30 to 15%. So this means that in the case of like, and this is why the caveat here is important, unless it hits a boss or a player, Death Trap will continue to rearm itself. So if, God forbid, you fire off a Death Trap and it doesn't hit anything, then it will just rearm itself and fire off again until it actually hits something. Now, it doesn't specify having to, it says until it kills an enemy. So again, if you are fighting, like, let's say for argument's sake, you're fighting a really fucking difficult elite pack, and there's 5 enemies in this pack. You throw a Death Trap underneath them, the Death Trap fires off, it deals a whole bunch of damage to them, but it doesn't kill any of the 5 dudes. That means you're gonna get another Death Trap. So what the problem with this is that if there's a player or a boss in that group, then it's not gonna do it. So this is gonna be fairly decent at taking, you know, let's say chunky enemies apart, just as long as those enemies aren't humans or bosses. I don't know if this actually makes me all that happy. I don't get me wrong, I like fucking Death Trap, but due to the way that you can build rogue at the moment right now, where you can in any case get like 3 fucking Death Traps in 60 seconds, yeah, this doesn't necessarily make me, you know, all that happy. Then we have Grasp of Shadow, which is a unique set of gloves. This has attack speed, vulnerable damage, shadow clone damage, and ranks to core skills. So all of your core skills. The aspect on here is a lucky hit mechanic that says damaging a vulnerable enemy with a marksman or cutthroat skill has a 20 to 30% chance to summon a shadow clone that mimics your attack. So this works for ranged as well as melee rogues, and like I said, built on lucky hit. So when you lucky hit with a skill, then and that enemy that you lucky hit also has to be vulnerable. So there's a couple of things that need to check into place here. Then you have a percentage chance to summon a shadow clone that mimics your attack. Now, I've said this in some of my build videos, and I continue to be of the mind that in some cases these lucky hit mechanics are so complex with the amount of variables that have to sort of snap into place for you to get this effect, that it might end up being more trouble than it's worth. This one in particular, there's a couple of things that have to just be fine for this to fucking even just give you the effect. So first of all, you have to get a lucky hit. Let's say you have a 1 in 10 chance of getting a lucky hit. Cool. So now you get a lucky hit, but at this point in time, when you get the lucky hit, the enemy that you're hitting is not vulnerable, because maybe your vulnerable effect is worn off or something like that. So then it doesn't matter that you got it, because there the effect already stops there. But let's say they are vulnerable. Fucking cool. Now there's also only a 20 to 30% chance of this happening. So a 1 out of 3 chance of this happening. So when you do all of the maths on this can very easy get to a point where it's like there's really like a 2.5% chance of this happening, if even that much. And then if you look at it like 100 hits, you know, 3 hits out of 100 hits are actually producing this effect. Not all that great. Now I'm being very fucking hard on this item right now, and I'm saying 2.5%. You know, let's say it's fucking 10%. That still means like 10 hits out of 100 will actually proc this effect, which if you're, yeah, that just might, like I said, not be worth it, and you might be wasting a potential slot here for an aspect that could be giving you more benefit in the same amount of time. Then we have Sky Hunter, which is a unique bow. I believe it's one of the 2 unique bows we get for the rogue, at least in my list here. This has damage to distant enemies, dexterity, marksman skill damage, critical strike damage, and ranks to exploit. The aspect on here says that the first direct damage you deal to an enemy is a guaranteed critical strike. If you had maximum stacks of the precision key passive when you cast the skill, you gain some energy back. This can only happen once per cast. So this would require some testing. To me right now, this seems fairly underwhelming, just in terms of the fact that, yeah, you get that first critical strike, so maybe you stack some critical damage as well, so you really hit like a fucking sniper rifle shot. Cool. But then you need to be having like maximum stacks of precision key passive, which I believe how that passive works is like it's the amount of shots that you get in a row, essentially stack this up, and then it gets to a full point, almost like stacking frenzy to a degree. So I don't know, this to me doesn't seem all that great. In general, as much as I want to love ranged rogue, and fun fact, the first class that I rolled in the beta was rogue, and the first way that I tried to play that rogue was ranged. I just don't feel like it stacks up nearly compared to something like melee rogue. Don't get me wrong, I think there's a place for it in the meta. I think you could potentially do something cute and sexy with it, but you know, this item's not helping me with inspiration. Then we have Wind Force, which is the second unique bow, as I mentioned. This has damage to distant enemies, all stats, core skill damage to distant enemies, mentioned fucking again, and then ranks to impetus. This has a lucky hit mechanic on it, and this says that hits with this weapon have up to a 10 to 20% chance to deal double damage and knock back the target. See, that's just a really, really weak effect right there, because first of all, lucky hit, right? So let's say 1 out of every 10 hits of yours is a lucky hit. Cool. So that one hit has a 10 to 20% chance. So once again, a 1 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10% chance to deal double damage and knock back the target. Yeah, both of these bows are just like, again, I'm doing 2 things in my head. I'm comparing them against other uniques that we've seen for some of the classes that we've been going through in these videos now, and I'm also just comparing them in terms of like playstyle. Like you put a melee rogue next to a range rogue and you go, okay, cool, yeah, kill 100 fucking enemies, let's see who does it fastest, and you know, most efficiently. And yeah, I think the fucking melee rogue wins like hands down blind with one hand. Last item on our list here of the 8 is Word of Hakan. This is a unique amulet with non-physical damage on it, ultimate skill damage, critical strike damage for imbued skills, and ranks to imbuement skills. This says on its aspect that your rain of arrows is always imbued with all imbuements at once. I mean, as much shit as I talk about ranged rogue, I really like this. I think Rain of Arrows looks flashy as fuck. I really like the way it looks. I loved using it in the betas. It looks so fucking dope when you're just blanketing the battlefield with all these arrows, and enemies are just getting fucking impaled and hit and everything. And this shit makes that Rain of Arrows deal poison damage, deal frost damage, and deal shadow damage, and cause massive AoEs, freezing enemies and putting poison dots on them. I mean, if you're gonna use fucking Rain of Arrows, if you're like, yeah, I'm using a whole bunch of other shit, but my ultimate is Range of Arrows, then there's literally no reason for you to not take this. This takes Rain of Arrows, which is really a really good AoE, you know, fucking screen clear ultimate, and it just goes, well, you know, do you want your skill to clean the screen but also do a bunch of AoE, or do you want it to do, you know, dots, or do you want it to freeze all the enemies? And your answer to that is yes. That's pretty much what this does. I really like this. I like Rain of Arrows. I fucking freely admit that. And this just, yeah, this makes Rain of Arrows like the first of an aggregate. And that's it for the list of rogue uniques that I've been able to get my hands on. It's possible that there might be more of these uniques in the full game, but we'll only really know that when the game launches. Let me know in the comments down below which one of these have got you excited and you can't wait to get into your hands. Speaking about getting things into your hands, I do want to mention that we are doing a giveaway on this channel of 3 copies of the base version of Diablo 4 on the platform of your choice, and to be able to qualify to enter the draw for one of those 3, you can simply go to this video over here. I put it out a while back. It's got some instructions and a short little Google form that they have to fill in. The link to that video is in the description of this video right below me, and go ahead and enter that. I sincerely hope that you can win one of those copies. I'll be doing the draw live on the 1st of June on this channel in a live stream, and I hope I can give one of those 3 copies to you. I also hope you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are in the world, and until next video, fucking cheers.